Hello guys, welcome to my channel to polish your CSE concepts with me. So let's get started. In today's video we are going to see very important topic of networks, that is TCP versus UDP. In this video we are going to understand in detail that what TCP is, what UDP is, how do they differ from each other, and so we will be able to take the decisions that in which places TCP can be used and in which places or in which type of communication UDP can be used. Fine. So, as you must be knowing, TCP and UDP, these are nothing but they are the protocols of transport layer, right? TCP and UDP both are the protocols of transport layer. We have already seen OSI layers in detail. So, one of the important OSI layer is transport layer, and in the transport layer, the main two protocols that are being used are TCP and UDP. Now, the full form of TCP is Transmission Control Protocol and UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol. You must be knowing that. Fine. Now let's see which are the main differences between TCP and UDP. Now I have written the points. I'll be explaining you the points in this video. Fine. Okay. Now the first difference between TCP and UDP is TCP is connection oriented and UDP is connectionless. Now obviously the next question comes is what is connection oriented and what is connectionless. Now TCP is called connection oriented. That means what do we mean by connection oriented? That before transferring any data, a connection has to be made. What do we mean by connection oriented? That as we know, TCP and UDP are the protocols of transport layer, and in transport layer we are doing communication port to port. Fine. So, whenever we want to transfer something from one port to another port or one process to another process, what we are going to do in TCP? In TCP, we will first make the connection. We will first make one definite connection, then we will transfer the data within that made connection only, and then once the data is transferred successfully, then we will release the connection. Fine, this is how TCP works. Actually, there is something known as three-way handshaking. So, in TCP, we are doing that three-way handshaking, and first of all, connection will be made, then transfer of data, and then connection will be released. This is how TCP works, and so it is known as connection oriented. But in UDP, the case is not like that. In UDP, this UDP maintains connectionless communication. What do we mean by connectionless? That whenever it gets any data from the application, it will simply start the transmission. Fine. Like one port got the data from application, then without waiting for anything, it will simply start the transmission. This is how UDP works, and so we can say that UDP is connectionless. Fine. So the first difference is TCP is connection oriented and UDP is connectionless. Now the second point, TCP is reliable but UDP is not reliable, or you can say that even if it is reliable, it is less reliable than TCP. Why? Because it is connected with this first point only. See, TCP is connection oriented means always one definite connection is made in a network, and in that same network or in that same connection the data is being passed. So it is reliable because we know that we can 100% assure that all the data bits that are sent from the sender, each and every bit will be received by the receiver. Definitely each and every bit sent will be received at the receiver end also. But in UDP, we cannot assure the same, because in UDP, we have seen that it is connectionless. Now, as it is connectionless, what will happen? That the data may transfer from different networks. Like you have sent, let me take a rough example. You have sent A, B, C, D, E. Now, A can be transferred from here, C, D can be transferred from here, B can be transferred from another network, E can be transferred from another network, right? So, in UDP, it is connectionless. So, the bits may get transferred by various network. So, it is less reliable. It is possible that A, C, D will be reaching at the receiver end, but due to problem in these two links, these two cannot be reached. Fine. Such problems may occur in UDP. So, we can say that because as it is connectionless, we are not making any definite connection. So, UDP is less reliable and TCP is more reliable, because it ensures that all the data passing from the sender will definitely be received at the receiver. Fine, so these are the main two differences. Then the third one is error control is mandatory in TCP, and in UDP the error control is optional. Now how you can justify this point? This point is valid because you must be knowing the header format of TCP and UDP. In the header format of TCP, checksum is mandatory, and as we know that what is that checksum field in the header doing? That checksum is for controlling the error. It will calculate the error, or it will calculate the checksum, and it will be sent along with your data. So in TCP this error control is mandatory because the checksum field is mandatory, but in UDP this error control is optional because the checksum field in the UDP header is optional. Like it is not mandatory, you can simply pass 0 in it. Fine. So based on that checksum field of the header, we can say that in TCP error control is mandatory. Error control is always taken into consideration in case of TCP, but in case of UDP error control is optional. Fine. Then in TCP the transmission is slow comparatively. Like we are not saying that the transmission of TCP is always slow, because TCP, if I compare directly between TCP and UDP, TCP is mostly used nowadays. But if we compare both of them, in comparison TCP is little slower than UDP. Now what is the reason? You can take the reason of this one and this one as the same reason, that in TCP comparatively slower transmission is there, whereas in UDP fast transmission is there, and in TCP more overhead is there, whereas in UDP less overhead is there. So what is the reason? The reason can be, in TCP you must be knowing that the size of the TCP header is what? 20 to 60 bytes. Whereas the header length of UDP is only 8 bytes. So this is the main difference. Because see, as we know, 20 to 60 bytes header length, and here the header length is 8 bytes. That means what? The header length of this TCP is much greater or much heavier than the header length of UDP. So what happens? The packet weight or the packet size of TCP will become much more than that of UDP. So obviously overhead is more, because in the header of TCP many more fields have to be sent. Even if we want or we do not want, we don't have any other option, there will be so many fields that we need to transfer compulsorily. So there are more overhead in TCP, whereas in UDP overhead is less due to less fields in the UDP header. Similarly, as we know, if the size is more or if the thing is heavier, it will take more time to transmit, obviously, right? So TCP is slower in transmission, whereas UDP is fast in transmission. Fine. Okay. Now the next point is, in TCP flow control, error control, these things are there, whereas in UDP there is no flow control or congestion control. Now what do we mean by flow control and congestion control? Flow control means what? TCP takes care of flow control as well as congestion control. Now what do we mean by that? What is flow control? That during the transmission of data, TCP takes care that whether the speed of the sender and the speed of the receiver is in sync. Means the sender is sending the data, but whether the receiver is able to receive the data by the same speed or not, that thing is to be taken care by TCP. So this is known as flow control, that the size of the sender sending the data and the speed of the sender sending the data and the speed of the receiver receiving the data must be with sync to each other. They must be synchronized, right? So that is known as flow control. And what do we mean by congestion control? That the amount of the data that the sender is sending, whether the channel is capable of taking that much data or not. So congestion control is about taking care of the channel capacity. Fine. So that congestion means what? There should not be more traffic. There should not be more data in the channel than the channel can handle itself. Right. So the capacity of the channel has to be taken care of before sending the data from the sender side. So this is what we know, that is what congestion control means. So in TCP, flow control and congestion control are taken care of, but in UDP, there is no flow control or there is no congestion control. Fine. Okay. Then TCP always maintains the order, whereas UDP no order is maintained. Now as we know, in TCP there is a particular connection made, and in that particular connection, in that particular network only, we are sending the data. So if I am sending ABCD, because ABCD will be transferred from the same network, so obviously if I am sending ABCD, the receiver will exactly receive ABCD only. But what happens in UDP, that there is no connectionless, as I have told you here, that it is possible that through various different networks, A, C, D, B, E can transfer. So it is possible that at the sender side you are sending A, B, C, D, E, but at the receiver side, maybe this CD will, the network from which this CD comes, this CD will come first, B can come after that, E can come after that, A can come after that also. So it is possible that the bits may come or may be received in the receiver side without order, like without the same order. In the same order it may not be received, because all the bits are transferred from different networks. So it is possible that the message received at the receiver end may be out of order. So TCP is maintaining the order, whereas UDP is not maintaining the order, or no order is maintained at the UDP side. And what is the last point? The last point is, okay, as we know that TCP is reliable, TCP is more reliable, so TCP is mostly used in www, file transfer, email transfer, and these protocols. FTP is file transfer protocol, it is the protocol of transferring file, and SMTP is simple mail transfer protocol, the protocol that is used to transfer the email. So mostly in the important task like World Wide Web, like internet, normal internet web browsing, file transferring, email transferring, in these important cases TCP is being used. And normally UDP, as UDP is less reliable, UDP is mostly used in entertainment cases like streaming videos, online games, live broadcast, fine, audio, video, online games, where little bit of out of ordering files or loss of file will not matter much, right? In such cases, in cases of entertainment and all those domain, in those cases mostly UDP is being used. So these are the main differences between TCP and UDP. If you understand the points, they are actually very clear to remember. It will be very easier to remember. Fine. I hope you have understood all the points. In case you have any doubt, you can always ask in the comment section. Thank you so much.